This recording is regarding a financial model based on 3 different investment options for property. The analysis was based on a 5-year period from 2019 to 2023, and the assumption was made that when data was given until August 2018, it stayed constant for the rest of 2018. The analysis method considered was the net present value, payback period, return on investment, and cost estimations, whereafter the net present value was chosen as analysis method. The 3 options is to rent out the unfurnished apartment on a year-to-year basis, rent out the furnished apartment on a short-term basis, or sell the property through an estate agent. A forecasted inflation was used for the analysis, where the average for 2019 was 5.8 and from 2020 on 5.4. Inflation was used as the base multiple for increases in rent, levies, and rates and taxes. The revenue for option 1 was the rent income each month. The rent was increased by 800 Rand because the tiles was replaced, whereafter it was increased by inflation. It was increased by inflation rather than market value to decrease the possibility of not having attendance. Furthermore, it was also assumed that there will be attendance throughout the 5-year period. The revenue for option 2 is the income through Airbnb, and an average of 626.50 cents was calculated by getting an average of 6 different 2-bedroom apartments in Linwood at Airbnb as well as Lekker for every day of the week, and the average was then taken of all of that where the 626 come from. Furthermore, it was assumed that for the holiday months, January, June, July, and December, the apartment will be rented out 5 days a week, and for the remainder, 3 days a week. The rent is also increased The rent is also increased by inflation, and Airbnb expects an increase in bookings of 2.2% per year. Option 3 has no revenue because the investment is growing and interest is not drawn. The money is invested in a PSG Flexi Fund that earns 13% per annum. The once-off expenses was calculated with the refinancing, and the plumbing issue for option 1, 2, and 3, bathroom renovations, tiles was replaced where the rent increased, and then the stove was replaced in the beginning of 2019, while the other renovations was done, and therefore it was only 5,000 Rand for the replacement of the stove. The annual expenses is repairs, maintenance, and replacement. An estate agent says that it will be no more than 2,500 Rand for a 2-bedroom apartment, so that was included in the calculations. The cleaning services for option 2 was calculated based on the same principle that the booking revenue was, of 5 days for the holiday months and 3 days for the remaining months, at 200 Rand per day. The rental fees is for option 1, 10% of the income. Option 3, Airbnb asks either 3% of booking income or a fixed fee of $350, and it was rather chosen to take the 3% due to the uncertainty of the rand and uncertainty of bookings. Option 3 is 8.5% of the selling price, and the investment fees for option 3 is 1% per month of the investment value. The interest expense is in the amortization schedule. Here you can see how the once-off expenses are tabulated and how the annual expenses are calculated. The levies, taxes, and rate, as said, it was just increases by inflation each year. Finance options for once-off expenses. The 4 different options was to refinance, credit card, overdraft, or personal loan. And here from the financing table, you can see that although the refinance is the second highest initial cost, it doesn't have a monthly fee and it is the lowest interest rate. So the option was made to refinance the once-off expenses. Then option 1 was refinanced for 457,000 and 472 for option 2. It was the prime forecast was used, and then the interest is prime plus 0.75 compounded monthly. The balance of the amortization schedule after 20 years is 0, and here you can see an example of how the interest rate is adjusted with the forecast and how the amortization schedule look like. The personal tax was done on her taxable income and not on only her salary. The taxable income is a salary added to the income from the property, and the income from the property is the revenues minus expenses. The tax source bracket accounted for 4% increase per year. So here is the calculation to ensure that her salary always, or her taxable income is always fitting into the bracket of 708,000. Furthermore, for tax, capital gains was calculated for option 1 and option 2. Book value was calculated of the property at 5% depreciation for wear and tear, nature damage, and etc. The estimated value of the property remained constant due to the fluctuation in property value. It's increasing, decreasing, increasing, decreasing constantly. So it just stayed at 920,000. Taxable gains is done at 40%, and there you can see the calculation for taxable gains. Option 1. There's the property growth, just so you can see how it fluctuates. Capital gains for option 2 and option 3. Option 3, it was only done for the investment value after 5 years. The risk and uncertainty regarding each option is listed here, and to account for the risk, there was a risk factor included after the total cash flow was calculated. Option 1 and option 2 has a risk factor of 10% and option 3 of 5%. There you can see the total cash flow, the risk factor, and the total cash flow after the risk factor. A sensitivity analysis was conducted to see what the difference will be, including with the cash flow, including of the risk factor, excluding of the risk factor, and the difference at option 1 and option 2 was just above 300,000, and option 3 170,000, which is relatively high, thinking of it's only a 10% risk, and it influenced it by 300,000 rand, or a 5% risk of 170,000. The comparison was done in the following method, starting with the salary, deducting the operating expenses, which is all the annual expenses except the interest paid was deducted separately. Then the annual income of each option is added, and then less the interest on the mortgage. This was calculated through the amortization schedule. Capital gains is added only at year 5, and then the taxable income is calculated. Tax payable was then calculated in the personal tax tab, and the rebate was taken into consideration and subtracted, whereafter the tax paid is calculated. The after-tax income is shown, and there is the gain from the sale after tax, and the loan outstanding balance was deducted. There's the total cash flow, risk factor, and then the total cash flow after risk and uncertainty. It is displayed for option 2 and option 3 as well. Net present value was calculated by using a MAR of 10%. It was decided to use a MAR of prime because experts said that is the most safest option to use. The net present value was then the highest at option 3, and the net present value was calculated by using the values in Excel. Therefore, it can be concluded that option 3 has the best net present value, option 3 has the lowest risk factor, and option 3 will be the lowest maintenance of the 3 options. The overall best option is therefore option 3, and the client should go with option 3.